I wanted to talk about the MVP race. And again, I talked about it a little bit on the last episode, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth because I felt like I didn't go too deep into it. So I think the front runner so far is definitely Giannis. When you just look at where the Bucks are currently in the stands, the day I'm recording this, they're 10-2. They got the best record. The Utah Jazz are surprisingly 10-3, very similar record to them. Boston is also 9-3, so they're very close to not having the best record, but technically they do have the best record, and they've been able to do this without Chris Middleton. I think uh, we're all aware of that being the situation with the Bucks right now. I'm actually not too sure when Middleton is going to get back, but I will say that the Bucks are definitely missing Middleton. They're about 16th, 17th, middle of the pack on offense. But what's really keeping them in all these games, and really the reason why they've been able to, win all these games so far without Middleton, is their defense. They're currently the best defense in the league. They only give up about, I would say, 100 and what, 5 points. Um, so one of the best defenses in the league, I believe. They're like one or two in terms of defensive rating. And a lot of this has to do with Giannis. And Giannis is averaging like 31, 32 points, I believe, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. He's doing his usual Giannis stuff. So the numbers wise, he's always going to be in that MVP conversation. But when you take into account, Chris Middleton being out and them starting off so well, I think it's kind of unanimous that he's the front runner for MVP. Now you can obviously make a discussion about Luka. We'll talk about him in a bit. But when you take into account, obviously, his numbers and the wins, and then you also take into account that he is most likely, also leading the Defensive Player of the Year race because the Bucks have one of the best defenses in the league. I think it's just kind of unanimous that he is the MVP front runner. I also want to shout out Drew Holiday and Brooke Lopez. Those two have been so good offensively so far to start out the season. Drew Holiday looks like he's turning the corner a little bit, bringing a little bit more consistency. He's averaging like 19 points, 9 assists, or 8 assists. I'm sorry, something along those lines. And Brooke Lopez is also looking like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate too, because he's averaging virtually 3 blocks a game. I don't think he's ever been close to that in his career. So that's been a huge help for the Bucks as well to have, that best defense. But again, it all kind of revolves around Giannis's ability to play off the ball and be help side or weak side defender. So I believe Giannis not only is the MVP frontrunner, but he should definitely be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year as well. And then to get back onto Luka, I think Luka is definitely at that number 2 spot. We know his numbers. He's averaging around the 36 points a game, and that's honestly just kind of insane. I didn't think he would be averaging that many points. I'm sorry, he's actually at 33 points a game now. The day I'm recording this, but still very, very impressive. I believe he's probably leading the league in scoring right now. But even despite how good his scoring has been, the Mavericks are one of the worst offensive teams in the league. They're bottom 10, I believe they're at like 22nd in terms of total points per game as a team. And a big reason for that isn't, Luka's ball hogging. Obviously, Luka has to control a lot of the offense because of the skill set that he has. And also, there just isn't a lot of offensive threats on the team outside of maybe like Christian Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie, right? So a lot of the offensive creation has to come from Luka. But I would say they're really missing Jalen Brunson right now. Now, Dinwiddie has done a really good job in filling in for Brunson. He's now the starter now, but they still need someone to fill in for Dinwiddie's last year's role. They don't really have that guy coming off the bench. I think they kind of thought Christian Wood could be that guy. He's been actually dealing with some injuries. He's missed a couple games due to injury, and he's also been kind of on and off. He started off really hot, but he's kind of cooled down a little bit. He'll have a couple good games, a couple bad games. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. Maybe it's just, more of a consistency thing, and it'll get better throughout the season. But currently right now, it's still a little bit not consistent, at least to my liking. But yeah, they still kind of need someone to fill in for Spencer Dinwiddie's role from last season. And I think there's a big reason why their offense has kind of fallen off. But again, they're still one of the best defenses in the league. They have a lot of defensive players around. They got JaVale McGee as well. They added, defense, and even with Tim Hardaway Jr. Joining as well, their offense is still not very good as well. I actually just remembered that because Tim Hardaway virtually didn't play the entire season last year. Um, I believe, right? How many games did Tim Hardaway miss? You know what? That doesn't matter. Tim Hardaway's still on the team, and they're still, kind of struggling on offense. I think for me, what makes Luka second place, obviously the stats are there. That's undeniable. But in terms of winning, the Mavericks are only 6-5 right now, so they're barely over 500. And again, it's a small sample size, but you look at Giannis, he's 10-2, and he's missing his second best player on the team, right? So I think just based off that alone, that puts him over Luka. Now you can say the conversation is close because that may be the only thing. I would also say obviously defense, in my opinion, matters for the MVP conversation a little bit as well. Not as much. I think it has more to do with impact on winning. Um, but I think defense does play a part in it a little bit as well. And obviously Giannis is a better defender than Luka, so that's just kind of like my whole thing with Luka being number two. But you can see it as close. I personally think it's pretty clear it's Giannis, and it's pretty clear that Luka is number two. Now for the number three spot, I think it's a little bit more up into the air. I think there's three names that come to mind. I got Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and John Morant. Those are three guys that I think are in the running for that third place at the MVP table. But I would personally take Tatum. And the Celtics are 9-3 right now. And Tatum has just looked really, really good. Not only is he still able to bring in the offensive ability from last season, he's averaging 31 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, virtually a steal and a block a game, and crazy efficiency as well. He's shooting 50% from the field, 37 from three on 9 attempts as well, and shooting 87% from the line, which is a career high. Yeah, it's a career high. So shout out to Tatum. And also to add on to him, he looks crazy defensively. I think some people kind of underrated him as a defender, especially last season. I think a good amount of people would believe that Brown was a better defender than Tatum. I personally didn't think that last season, but at this point, I think it's pretty undeniable that Tatum is the best defender on the team, at least until, well, I don't even know. Even if Robert Williams comes back, Tatum's individual defense has been pretty crazy. He's been doing a really good job at like containing his matchup and not having to like rely on maybe like Jaylen Brown or someone else to make up for anything. Like Tatum is like taking on like one of the best players on the other team and still putting up 31 points per game. And again, the Celtics are 9-3. They have one of the best offenses in the league. I believe they're top 5. They're actually number 1. I just checked on ESPN. They're number 1 offense in the league. They score virtually 120 points a game, which is crazy to think about, that the best offense in the league is scoring 120 points per game. But defensively for the Celtics, they have taken a little bit of a step back, and I do think that is because Robert Williams is out. That's why I was kind of considering who is the best defender on the Celtics. I think there's a good conversation to have, because I feel like it would be between Smart, obviously, because he had the Defensive Player of the Year last year. And then you have Tatum. I think you can honestly, at least last season, you could have made an argument for Al Horford because he was doing a lot of switching. And then Robert Williams, and obviously you could talk about Jaylen Brown as well. Just a lot of good defenders on that team, so it'd be a good conversation to see who's the best defender on the Celtics. So let me know down in the comments who you think the best defender is. But going back to Tatum, obviously he's putting out the offensive numbers, and defensively I think he's made a lot of improvements. I would say his biggest improvement overall is his defense, but also I would say it's his strength. Now, he was super strong last season, but he looks even stronger this season. Something that I talked about a couple weeks ago on my other channel. And, he just looks very comfortable going to the rim now. I think sometimes last season he would get a little bit too comfortable with taking some pretty tough, like fall away, mid-range shots, trying to do his best Kobe impression that a lot of people give him, a bad rep for. But now he's kind of using more of his strength, more of his shoulders, more of his just upper body strength to get to the rim. And it's honestly worked out really well from him. He's able to just get better looks at the rim, not having to really settle for any, hard fadeaway shots. And he's also used the floater a little bit more as well. I think he's always like had a little bit of a a floater game, but I think especially this year, being able to like push someone off with your shoulder, and then even if there's like a center close by, like being able to have a floater is always it's always nice to have, especially because Tatum is so tall. Like adding a floater game to a guy who's already like 6'9", 6'10", it virtually just makes it impossible to guard you, especially around the basket. So Tatum overall has had an incredible season so far, and I mean, you can look at Donovan Mitchell as well. He's putting up the numbers, and he's also improved on defense. But again, Celtics just have more wins, so I think that's why I would have Tatum over. And then John Morant. John Morant has also had a crazy good season as well. He's putting crazy well. Last time I checked, John Morant was shooting like well over 40% from three. I want to check it real quick. Um, it's still pretty well over. He's at 41% right now from three, shooting 5 a game. So to me, that's very impressive. I still don't know how much that's gonna hold up. I would hope that he would at least be like a 37-38% three-point shooter. I think that would be really good for him. But if he's gonna shoot 41% from three, he's virtually unguardable on the offensive end. Um, but in terms of the Grizzlies, the record again isn't just up to par to the other guys. The Grizzlies, I don't actually, I'm wrong about that. I'm sorry, they're 9-4, so they're honestly right in there. Honestly, I might take Ja over Donovan Mitchell. Um, because something to keep in mind as well, is Jaren Jackson Jr. is not playing. He is going to be out for quite some time because he did sustain an injury last season, or in last off season. So he had surgery for that. So he's not going to be back, I believe, towards somewhere around the new year. So yeah, I think I'll put John at 4 and then Donovan Mitchell at 5. Um, but the MVP race, I think those are the guys at the table. I think those are the guys that you could have an argument with any of those guys being top 3. I think Luka and Giannis are pretty set, but Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and Ja, I think you can make arguments for all 3 of those guys to be that number 3 spot. Some guys I think that are on the outside looking in for the MVP race. I think you have to look at Steph. When you look at Steph's stats right now, it is very similar to his unanimous MVP season. Um, and honestly, it might even be better. So I'm getting it up right now. Basketball Reference. He's averaging 33 points a game right now. 7 rebounds as well, by the way, it's 6.8 rebounds. That's a career high. He's also averaging 6.7 assists. And he's shooting 52% from the field, 44% from three, and 91% from the line. And that would give him a true shooting percentage of, oh my gosh, that gives him a true shooting percentage of 69%. That's a very nice percentage right there, 69.5. So he's virtually at 70%. And when you look back at his unanimous MVP season, he was averaging 66% true shooting percentage. So yeah, and his PR was 31.5 that year. He's at 30.8 as well. So that's very close. That's the best that it's been since he's kind of been in the lower 20s since his unanimous MVP. But now he's back, at that 30 range. So I think Curry is definitely on the outside looking in. The Warriors haven't won as many games as you would probably hope for him. I honestly, I think that if they were around that 9-3 or 9-4 range in terms of their record, I think they would definitely. I think Steph would definitely maybe be on that number 3 spot. Someone else that I think is on the outside looking in is Nikola Jokic. But the reason why I don't think he's going to be seriously considered is because I just feel like his scoring averages just aren't up to par. He's only averaging about 22 points a game. He's virtually averaging a triple double though. He has almost 10 rebounds, 8.5 assists. So his assists are going up compared to the last couple of seasons. Um, Obviously just very slightly, but he's also not had to do as much scoring as he had to, the past 2 seasons. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 5 other players scoring double digits, and he has another guy, Bruce Brown, averaging 9.8. So he has a lot of different scoring threats on his team. So he doesn't really have to score as much, which is why he's only averaging, 21, 22 points per game. But I think Jokic should definitely be considered on the outside looking in. But after that, I think that's really all the people who should be considered for MVP. I would say Dame, because the Blazers are 9-3, but Dame has already missed a couple of games, and they won. I'm pretty sure they won all those games that he was out. So I don't know if Dame is in that conversation as well. And then after that, just a lot of people do not have the record. Uh, you can look at KD, but the Nets are only 5-7. Um, Pelicans are 6-6. If you're gonna have an MVP candidate, it would be Zion, but even Zion isn't really. He's only averaging like 21, 22 points per game, so that's nothing too crazy. And then Embiid was my prediction for MVP. He's looked solid, but the Sixers are only 5-7, and now Harden is out with an injury for about a month. So not sure how the record is going to look once James Harden comes back. But yeah, I think Steph Curry and Jokic are looking in, but in terms of top five, going from 1 to 5, I would have Giannis, Luka, Tatum, Ja, and Donovan Mitchell. And I think that's the MVP race so far. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let me know if I'm missing someone out. Someone else needs to belong at the MVP table. We'll probably have this conversation, later on, especially once we get towards the All-Star break. I think we'll have more of an idea of who's going to be the MVP. Just things just look really weird right now, especially with, the Utah Jazz having a really good record. It's like, is Lauri Markkanen at the table? I don't think so, but that's my thoughts on the MVP race right now. That was a clip from my podcast that you can watch by clicking here to see the whole episode. If you enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe. See you on the next one. Peace out.